My number one recommendation, if your chest growth is stalled and your pressing movements have basically hit a plateau, here's what you're gonna do. Before we get into the workout, a quick little physique check right here. And the reason for this is because I want to show you why I'm doing the exercises specifically for the back that I'm doing. All right. So for example, me, I don't have very broad shoulders, and my waist, even at my thinnest when I was about 6-7% body fat, is about a 31. So I don't have a really great shoulder to waist ratio. However, as you can probably tell right now, I could create illusion of that because I got really good development in those rear delts. So for my back workout, I got a lot of rear delt work so that I could give the illusion of width, because even though it looked like this from the back, I do not look wide at all from the front, as you can see. Moving on to the chest, I really like how my chest looks from the side. From the front, I have, you can tell that I have pretty even muscle distribution. My upper chest, middle, and lower. One region doesn't stick out more than the other. So, for example, on my chest, I don't prioritize right now the upper, lower, or middle more than another. However, stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to show you a super effective way to grow that chest, especially when it has stalled, whether it's the size or maybe it's your pressing. You're stuck on a weight and can't move up to the next. All right, so getting into the workout, I'm starting off with a cable rear delt fly. I have that attachment of that plate system set up to where it's about at the top of my head, because I'm going to be making an angle of 45 degrees between that arm and that torso. If right here you can't really maybe see it that well, but when you're looking straight ahead on in the mirror, your arm and that cable should basically be overlapping, if that makes sense. On these, I'm going for 8 to 10 reps. You'll typically do 3 to 4 sets. Sometimes I get carried away and go for 4 because I just really like how they feel. And I will also typically go into a drop set on each of these sets. So I'll go to failure, and then I decrease that weight by 5 pounds, and then I go for 4 more reps. I'm also not supersetting with chest quite yet, but I am supersetting it with some abs. I'll typically do some leg raises, cable crunches, or decline crunches, depending on what I have that day. And also because I am prioritizing my rear delts, so I'm not supersetting with chest quite just yet. That way I actually recover between my rear delt fly sets and not, prevent or mitigate the recovery when I'm doing a chest press and using those rear delts to squeeze those shoulder blades together. That way I have a good support for my pressing. Now, my best tips on these rear delt flies is, one, keep that elbow slightly bent. If you keep that arm all the way out straight and extended, you're likely to be using that tricep a little bit, because it does play a role in shoulder extension, kind of like pulling that elbow behind the body. Also, on that way forward, don't just passively go upwards. This is the biggest thing right here. Imagine like you're slightly pushing that elbow and hand out to the side and reaching towards the front of your body. This is going to allow you to get a really good stretch on those rear delts and help you keep tension to that eccentric. All right, getting into the meat of this workout, I'm doing this Isolateral High Row, basically another pull down variation, and it has its pros and cons. The pro being that whenever you're pulling down towards the ground, you're creating that 45-degree angle with your body and that torso. That's going to be hitting more of those rear delts than, let's say, a regular lat pull down or a pull up. However, a con of this exercise is because you're not bringing that elbow towards the side of the body, like towards the rib cage, you're not going to be working those teres as much, the teres major and minor, because they're primarily responsible for bringing that elbow towards the side of the body. Of course, the lats do that as well, but the teres also play a role, which is why I do, on my other chest and back day, I do a pull down variation where I am actually trying to force and bring that elbow not just down, but towards the side of my body as well. You're also going to be working the lats in this movement, pretty much in that top half range of motion, and then the bottom half is primarily those rear delts and the upper back. You can do both arms at the same time. However, the reason why I'm doing one arm at a time is because when I'm doing my pull down variations on my other chest and back day, I always notice that one arm I get a better mind-muscle connection than the other. So by doing an exercise like this unilaterally, you're really able to really feel the stretch, that tension through the elbow on one side at a time, and really build that mind-muscle connection. That way on your pull down, other pull down variations, where you're using both arms at the same time, you could really feel each side of your body contract. Also, because we are trying to work those rear delts, make sure you have the height of that seat adjusted to whenever you're at the bottom, your forearm basically makes the same angle as the handle. That way you're not just pulling down towards the ground, because then we're not hitting those rear delts as much. I'm doing 3 hard sets right here, going all out each set. I'm doing 8 to 10 reps. I get 10 on that first set, and then by the last one, I'm only able to get 8. And I'm supersetting this with a machine chest fly right here, going for 8 to 10 reps as well. Same kind of deal, 10 reps on that first set, I hit failure, and by that last one, I'm only able to hit 8. And the reason why I am doing chest flies first as my first exercise, a lot of people will start out with their machine chest presses or a barbell dumbbell press. However, the reason why I'm starting with a chest fly right here, and the reason why you might want to start doing it, is because whenever you hit a plateau with your pressing movements, it sucks, right? You do better one week, then do worse the next week, and you don't actually make lots of progression. All right, so my number one recommendation to break to that plateau is, instead of starting with your pressing, go into your flies. You'll find that you're going to be able to progress your flies a whole lot. Of course, your presses after are likely not going to be as strong. You may be able to get that first set the same weight that you would do if you would have started off with your pressing movements. However, whenever you go back into you doing your presses first, 9 times out of 10, you'll find that you will actually have gotten a lot stronger on your pressing movements. I've done this many times in the past to break the plateaus. So if you're stuck with at a plateau on your pressing movements, whether it's machine, dumbbells, barbell, try starting off with your flies first, progress those, build more strength in that chest, and then when you go into your pressing movements, you will find that you're actually a lot better and you have broken through that plateau. For these chest flies, make sure that you are having that seat in a spot, so whenever you're bringing those hands towards the front, they are at the height of the middle of the sternum. Also, make sure that you are focusing on driving not through that hand, but through that elbow. It'll help you involve a lot less of those biceps. And as you're going backwards, make sure you get a good bend at the elbow to put, again, less tension on the biceps, but also be able to feel a better mind-muscle connection and a better stretch. Into the next superset, we are going with this Nautilus lat pull down, my overall, hands down, favorite lat pull down machine. If you don't have the machine, you could either do a kneeling lat pull down like this one, or a pull down where using a neutral grip like this. And the reason why I love this one so much, it basically combines those two different exercises that I just showed into one, where you're also pulling towards the front of your body, elbows coming down in front of your body, and you also have the support of those thigh pads, keeping you nice and locked into that seat. And of course, like the name suggests, we are hitting the lats on this one, getting a little bit more bias of the lower lats because we are pulling with that elbow down towards the front of our body. On this one, you're really trying to feel that weight through the elbow and trying to not drive that elbow backwards, but trying to push it down towards those thighs. If at the bottom your hand is too close to that shoulder, then you are doing them wrong. And don't rush that eccentric. On that way up, imagine like you're pushing that elbow and that hand towards the front. I also like to allow that torso to go forward to get a better stretch on those lats, but when I'm coming down, I go back into my upright vertical position to bias those lower lats. Going for 7 to 9 reps on these, and then supersetting this with my first pressing movement. Got a machine incline chest press right here, doing this hammer strength. I love this one. They also have a plate loaded one as well too. But you could easily substitute this with an incline dumbbell chest press or even an incline barbell bench press. But I really do love this machine because it converges, meaning that it gets closer with those hands closer together as you push away from your body, helping you shorten that pec just a little bit more. Also, just a little PSA, don't be afraid to use machines, especially on your chest days. Although dumbbells, barbells are great, machines can often allow you to push a little bit closer to failure and are also a lot of times safer because you don't have to worry about someone spotting you. I'm going for 7 to 9 reps on these, really focusing on getting a nice and controlled eccentric. You might notice that I'm getting a slight pause at the bottom, really feeling that stretch, and also making sure that I keep my abs nice and tight. On to the next superset. Now that I finished my 2 pull downs, I'm going to go into my rows, doing a lat focused row right here on this Nautilus Compound Row. And like the Nautilus lat pull down, you might not have this Nautilus Compound Row. If you don't, then you can just do a cable seated row, doing one arm at a time with that hand with a neutral grip, meaning palm facing towards the center, just like I'm doing right here, and keeping that elbow nice and tight to the body, and having that torso vertical just like I have it right here. With these, make sure you use that opposite arm to help stabilize and keep your body upright, and just focus on trying to drive that elbow and pinky down towards the ground, but keeping that forearm nice and parallel to the ground, horizontal, or else you'll be feeling a lot of the tricep if you push that hand below that elbow. Also pay attention to how far I am pulling backwards. I'm basically just pulling far enough to where my arm is alongside my torso. I'm not excessively pulling back that elbow too far behind my body. I'm sticking with 8 to 10 reps on these. Typically with this range, I could use a weight where I could actually really feel a really good contraction on those lats through the very last rep. If you're doing a little bit heavier, lower reps, you may not feel that contraction in those lats as much. And supersetting this is my last exercise for the chest. It's Nautilus chest press machine. I'm going for 7 to 9 reps on these, and I'm using a neutral grip, palms facing towards the center. Really allows me to get a good stretch on the pec, a little easier on my shoulders, but I'm also working those triceps a little bit more because I'm just trying to get a little bit more volume overall throughout the week. If you don't have this machine, you could do any other flat press, or since you've already hit the middle with that chest fly, the upper chest with that incline hammer press, you could hit the lower portion of the chest with some chest dips, or if you have a decline hammer strength machine chest press. And finishing off the back with this Nautilus mid-row machine right here for the upper back is going to help us primarily target those rear delts, rhomboids, and traps, that upper back. If you don't have this machine, you could replace this with any row where you're pulling towards the bottom of the chest, like a chest-supported T-bar row or any other cable row that you might find. For me, I actually prefer a chest-supported T-bar row, but I don't have that in my gym, but I do have this one, which I also really like because it allows us to have those handles that swivel, making it a more natural feel, and also has that chest support, allowing us to get a little bit better technique and a bit closer to failure, not leading ourselves by our lower back when we're doing a row that isn't chest-supported. These, make sure you're getting a nice and solid squeeze at the very back, trying to drive those elbows as far back behind your body as you can, and simultaneously lifting that chest up, ribcage slightly forward. That way you could get a really good squeeze on those traps and rhomboids. And on that way forward, imagine like you're slightly pushing those elbows out to the side a little bit. This will help you keep tension through those rear delts. And we do want to allow those shoulders to go forward, get rounding of that upper back. That way you fully stretch those traps and those rhomboids. Going for 8 to 10 reps on these, and again, do not rush these. Go nice and controlled, get a good squeeze at the very back, and nice and slow on that way forward. And actually, we have one more exercise to do. We got some finger extensions, so point that finger as hard as you can and hit that like button. It really helps that algorithm so that this video can be shown to many others just like yourself trying to get a maximum amount of gains in the gym. Also follow me on social media, Instagram and on TikTok for more video content just like this, helping you get more gains.